Let's talk about Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Season 2, Episode 11. We're going to be tackling both parts of the episode in this review because, honestly, I don't feel like either part of this episode really deserves more than 1 or 2 minutes of attention. And if that seems like a slight against the episode, I guess it kind of is. At the end of the day, long story short, I just kind of felt like these episodes were, at best, average for this point in the show, and at worst, below average by a pretty significant margin. It varies from moment to moment, from episode to episode. The first of the two, Hungry Larry, was a Halloween-themed episode, so already it earns a few bonus points with me. It's all about how Marco's dad is trying to be scary to the local kids, and he just fails miserably because he's literally the nicest person to ever exist. So to make him feel better, against Marco's wishes, Star and Jana summon a creature called Hungry Larry, a little ghost and like a sheet ghost kind of creature, who seems perfectly innocuous and then proceeds to eat most of the town's children, as well as Marco's entire family, save for his father. And his dad has to reach deep within himself to find the strength and intimidation factor to rescue everybody. This, I think, was the better of the two episodes by a pretty wide margin. It was very energetic, very well animated, of course, because that's one of the staples of this show, is great animation. But that animation was paired with some really decent horror imagery this time around, which I thought was really great. If you've seen my reviews of Gravity Falls, you know that I really love well-done horror imagery and animation made digestible for kids, because I really like being scared, and I know there are kids out there who feel the same way. And it was really cool to see the involvement from Marco's dad. It's just that this is another episode, when it boils down to it, where the conflict of the episode stems from Star being impulsive and not listening to people and not learning her lesson. How many times is she going to have to learn the lesson that she needs to stop being so impulsive, that she needs to think things through, that she needs to stop being so childish all the time and actually take situations seriously? How many times is she going to have to learn that lesson before it sinks in? Star's characterization here, of all things, reminds me of the character 7 of 9 from Star Trek Voyager. She was a human who had been transformed into an alien and then back into a human, and so the show found its groove, putting her in scenarios where her interactions with the other characters would have to teach her, reteach her, what it means to be human. And they saw great success with those episodes, so they just fell into a pattern of teaching her the same lessons over and over again, and that's what it feels like here. It was fine at first. It worked really well at first, teaching Star these lessons that she needs to grow up, that she needs to mature as a person, but it's gotten to the point where it's starting to get tired. This episode just, it felt like a step back to me, and that's not a good thing. The second episode, Spider with a Top Hat, takes us inside Star's wand, where we're introduced to all of her spells. We see the Warnicorns, is that what they're called? The narwhals, the little cupcakes with the faces on them, and a spider with a top hat who has dreams of being a powerful warrior spell, even though he's just an entertainment spell. I thought this episode was just absolutely dumb, and the more I think about it, the dumber I think that it is. Let's just put it that way. Like, the focused character here is the spider with a top hat, and he goes through a journey, and I actually was halfway invested in his journey until the very end. We'll talk about that in a second. But going inside Star's wand and visualizing all these spells, giving them character, it did something I don't think the writers intended to do. It first of all implied that Star's wand can only conjure things, it can't do other kinds of magic, and even went so far as to further imply that it can only conjure things that are alive, and that's just objectively untrue. It also showed us definitively that her spells are living, conscious creatures that work a 9-to-5 grind, that have a schedule and have lives outside of being her spells, which means that not only are her spells finite, but they're not even magical. And then at the end, the spider with a top hat, he goes through this big journey and he gets his moment to be a strong warrior spell, and it turns out he was super powerful the entire time and just didn't know it, undermining his entire development as a character. Like, there are of course moments in this episode that are good, there are funny moments, there are charming moments, but we're not even following any characters that we know. Throughout this entire episode, we're following this new menagerie of characters, and honestly, I just don't care about them because I don't know if they're ever going to factor into the story again after this. And then it goes and undermines its plot as it had built it up. So any investment that I had in the episode just disappeared. And it kind of undermines Star's abilities. And now the series is going to have to go from here and either remain inconsistent with the portrayal of her spells as they were shown in this episode, or start to conform to the portrayal of the spells as they were shown in this episode and be inconsistent with the rest of the series. And neither one of those after this episode is a good choice. The more I think about it, the more I think that this has to be the worst episode of season 2, at least so far. And it may be among the worst episodes of the series overall. I just didn't like it. But as per usual, guys, if you have seen this episode, aka these two sub-episodes of Star vs. the Force of Evil, what did you think of them? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.